Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. This is Defub21, and lo and behold, today we do not have a new video game trailer. Huzzah! Today I thought I would take a moment of your time, and hopefully not too much of a moment of your time, to talk about, well, first to report on the rumors that have come to the fore over the previous week about the Nintendo NX, Nintendo's next home console, and upon reporting said rumors, to give you my thoughts on them. So without further ado, I'm just going to read them off a list here, and then I'll give you my thoughts afterwards. So first, it has a wireless HDMI dongle that attaches flush to the back of the device. A user can pull it out and insert it into any display with a normal sized HDMI input, and the device uses an involved version of Wii U's streaming tech to display in HD to the TV screen. That's one. Two, reportedly, the analog controls for movement have small motors in them for full haptic feedback, meaning if you control a character and hit a wall, the sticks move away from the direction of that wall to simulate running headfirst into it. Okay. This can be used for jerking when firing a gun, taking damage, moving over rough terrain, and so on. Three, it can literally Bluetooth sync with everything, especially smartphone and tablets, to the point where one feature is that it can answer phone calls and display text messages from your phone onto the screen, onto the screens itself, so you don't have to stop and answer your smart device. So you can keep on gaming on the go, as it were. Don't have to be juggling more than one device at a time. Number four, the closest in terms of power, in terms of the existing consoles, it's close in terms of power to the Xbox One, but is apparently, it's been reported that the level of performance is about 50 times that of the Wii U, or about 100 times that of the Vita. The tech in question that it's based upon is exactly the same hardware and layout as is found in the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, which means, to my mind, an AMD APU with various customizations. It's combined with the operating system that comes with it, it's very strong emulation functions, and compiler that allows any game that'll run on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One to easily run on the NX with near zero modifications to the original source code, especially if it runs an Android OS or Unreal Engine 4. This is allegedly why Nintendo has given out the dev kits so late. As one third-party dev puts it, this is again a quotations here, it's the easiest device we've ever developed for you. Just take your code, compile it, and it works. Number five, apparently look to Pokemon Go to get an idea of the type of social features that will be in NX that will take multiplayer, AR, and Street Pass concept to a whole new level. The real strengths of the device is its usability and ease of use. Developers have described, again, this is the source talking here, have described to me more than once that it's visually and functionally looks as if a Samsung and a Nintendo 2DS had a baby, in that it looks friendly, but unlike what most people visualize a Nintendo device to typically look like. The operating system, named Nintendo, it's actually called, just to spell it out for you here, it's NINTENDOS, so it's Nintendo S. In other words, it's one word, Nintendo S. Alone is very powerful and has so many modern features of mobile operating systems today that Nintendo is trying to be very careful in showing it off, for fear that it would be mistaken as running Android, as it being an Android device, which apparently, according to this rumor, it is not. It is also very strong. It also has very strong networking functions, as it ties into multiple devices and services, allowing a very competent and pervasive ecosystem designed to constantly involve the consumer's lives, quote unquote. So that's the whole list of those. Right, as far as my thoughts on these rumors are concerned, if this is an accurate, if these are in any way accurate, I think it's, up until now, the assumption has been that we'll be getting a replacement for the Nintendo Wii U, principally because the Wii U has been an abject disaster. It's the poorest selling Nintendo home console in history. It's barely sold over its lifespan, I think about this stage, maybe half the total number of units the GameCube sold. And the GameCube was considered something of a disaster at the time. So the Wii U is, disaster times two, at least. It's been a catastrophe for the company's home console business. And the assumption has been the fact that the Wii U has been an abject failure. And the 3DS certainly hasn't been as successful as the DS, but it's sold, I think, over 50 million units to date, and is certainly very profitable for the company, that we'll be getting a new home console. But from what we're looking at here, if these rumors turn out to be true, the whole wireless dongle thing, if it was a home console, those tend to be plugged into a wall socket and then left under your TV. There's no point in going through the expense of having a wireless dongle when you can go with a cable. It's cheaper. You potentially lower latency, although apparently the video streaming on the Wii U tablet controller is very low latency to begin with. There's no reason for, if it's a traditional physical home console, for it to have wireless video streaming to a TV. I would assume the dongle would have to have some form of, unless there's power comes to the HDMI port on TVs. I don't know if that's true or not, but unless it does, I would imagine it would have to have some sort of battery. I could be wrong on that. Anyone let me know about if I'm wrong on that in the comments. There's nothing of note in the rumor about it being USB powered or anything like that. Combine that with the fact that there's again it apparently has been compared to a Nintendo 2DS and a Samsung, we assume, phone having a baby, combined with the fact that that says to me that this is a portable device, that it's a handheld of some description, and maybe it's a small form factor tablet, but we won't find out. It doesn't look, but we won't know for sure until the hardware is finally revealed. The fact that it's kind of closest to Xbox One power, if this was a conventional home console, I would consider that very much to be a negative. You'd want to be targeting the PS4 at the bare minimum, and assuming that this system would be at least $300 at launch, or €300 in my neck of the woods at launch, that it would have to be at least comparable to the PS4, maybe even more powerful again, but or at least in certain areas. And if it is only Xbox One level or a bit more in home console terms, that's not great. But if it's a portable device, I mean, the currently most powerful dedicated handheld you can buy is the PlayStation Vita. I've got one, and that's somewhere between a PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3, although it's closer to the PlayStation 3's capabilities. So an Xbox One type level of performance from a tablet is very, very powerful and very, very impressive piece of hardware. Now, as someone who owns a PlayStation, this is one kind of area of concern for me. As someone who owns a PlayStation Vita, I own my PS Vita. In fact, I own handheld. When I bought handheld gaming systems, I had a DS, I had a Game Boy Advance, I had an original PSP as well. The one kind of game I'm not interested in, I think most Western gamers are not really interested in on handheld gaming devices, is basically a full-blown home console game but in a handheld device. The PS Vita tried that in the West and flopped massively. I think the PSP was such a success as it was outside of Japan, because it became, once the operating system had been cracked, it became hugely popular as a portable emulator of Game Boy games, Game Boy Advance games, SNES, Mega Drive games, you name it. And I think that drove sales for quite a bit in the West, in America, and Europe for the PSP. And I think outside of that, for the PSP, the games that sold new that were successful in the PSP tended to be games that weren't found on the PlayStation 3 or on the Xbox 360. I think a lot of the best games in the PlayStation Vita are kind of more indie type titles. The vast bulk of the games I own for the PlayStation Vita are indie type titles. I bought the Uncharted game for it a while ago, and I found it to be, quite frankly, a bit useless. The analog sticks, they're just not, I don't know what it is, that the surfaces you touch with your thumbs just aren't big enough. It's just, you can't control it. It's not comfortable enough to control in a kind of proper traditional third-person shooter. And I lost interest in the Uncharted game. I can't remember the name of it, so if someone wants to remind me in the comments, please do so. But I don't think, home console experience on the go, I don't think, certainly in the West, it didn't work out. The PSP was a huge success I believe, in Japan when it was out in Japan, for no other reason than the fact that the Xbox 360 was a non-starter in Japan. The kind of core and hardcore games Japanese core gamers wanted really weren't present on the Wii, and the PlayStation 3 was incredibly expensive in Japan for the first couple of years it was on the market. So a lot of core and hardcore gamers in Japan wanted, again, their traditional core and hardcore games, couldn't afford the PlayStation 3. The stuff they wanted wasn't on the Wii, the Nintendo Wii, and they turned their noses up at the Xbox 360. So huge swathes of them turned to the PlayStation Portable. And I think that was the reason why the PSP was such a huge success in Japan. But its success in Japan was completely disconnected from its performance in America and Europe. And I think the PlayStation Vita, I'm not completely sure in terms of how successful it's been in Japan compared to in the West. It's certainly sold nothing like the number of units that 3DS has, although I don't have a 3DS, I do have a PlayStation Vita, and I enjoy the games on the PlayStation Vita quite a bit, and there's lots of games that are indie games that are pretty reasonably priced, certainly compared to a lot of 3DS games, and you can get games on sale too for like 15 quid or less that are great games that are very entertaining. I don't know if the NX, if the Nintendo tries, as I said, if Nintendo tries the whole home console quality gaming on the go, I don't know if that would be successful, because Sony's basically tried it, certainly in America and Europe, on 2 separate occasions, and it's not worked. But that being said, if it does come with a wireless dongle, that means you can just, play your game, and then if you've got a big 3D action game, you can just plug your wireless dongle, have it plugged in already into the back of your TV, and just use the NX as a controller. That'd be pretty good, pretty great even. But it's a question of exactly when they say how close to the Xbox One, do they mean it's less powerful than the Xbox One, or is it a bit more powerful than the Xbox One? If it's less powerful than the Xbox One, my concern would be, again, right off the bat, would be is that, like with the Wii U, you'd get cut down versions of 360 and PlayStation 3 games that were not as good as they were on 360 and PS3. Games like FIFA Soccer, which is, or is it FIFA Football outside of the United States? I can't remember. Or is it just FIFA? Again, I'm not really into my sports games, but the Wii U version of that, when the 360 and PlayStation 3 were still the only games in town for Microsoft and Sony, had the advanced physics stripped out of it because the Wii U's crappy processor couldn't handle the simulation requirements of that advanced physics. We wouldn't, toned down inferior versions of Xbox One and PS4 games would not be a big seller at all. And again, for me, this is the only generation since, I didn't own an original Game Boy, and I didn't own an N64, but my sister owned an N64. That's the reason I didn't own one. I had a GameCube, I had a Game Boy Advance, I had a Wii, I had a Nintendo DS. I have never bought a 3DS. I certainly still have no plans to buy one. I do not own a Wii U. This is the first generation of both portable and Nintendo hardware and a Nintendo home console that I have not purchased. And there's a lot of great first-party games on both systems that I might be interested in buying. If the NX is available at launch with all these games, backward compatible from both the Wii U and the 3DS, and they're available for a reasonable price, that might make it an appealing purchase. But I'm still a bit, skeptical / concerned. If it's, it's definitely, it says to me that this is going to be a portable device. How they can pack in a system that would be a direct match for the Xbox One and a portable device. They've other earlier rumors have said that the hardware the silicon was cutting edge, and the Xbox One, the PS4 do not represent anything like the jump in capability compared to the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Had they represented a jump in capability over both the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. So maybe that's a factor. We've got a souped up graphics and portable graphics chip is caught up with the relatively what's the word for it, mediocre chip, certainly compared to PC stuff that you find in the Xbox One and the PS4. Maybe again portable memory has caught up enough in terms of the amount of bandwidth it can provide and capacity to be able to match both those systems. Because again, this is the thing, it's one thing trying to be close to or having the matching the capability of the Xbox One when you're when your graphics are going to be running on a portable screen, it's something else entirely different when you're going to be streaming it to a TV. So it's got to be some pretty impressive hardware. How much it would end up costing, I couldn't imagine. Again, the PS Vita launched for $249. The 3DS did the same. I would imagine this hardware would be more expensive, $299. Would be my guess. Assuming, this is another thing as well. Again, off the top of my head, this just popped into my head. What about storage? A lot of the games on the Xbox One are like, 30, 40, 50 gigs. If they're relying exclusively on conventional SD memory cards, those things only carry, I think the highest capacity ones are like 64. Maybe you can get 128 gig ones at this stage. But that would be certainly a limiting factor for those kind of games as well. So there's a lot up in the air. And how much, this is the thing, one of the things, the rumor that the system is in terms of power, is 50 times a Wii U or 100 times a PlayStation Vita. That is highly unlikely to be. If it is a portable gaming device, there's no way that's true. Don't get me wrong, the Wii U is in certain respects junk. The main RAM bandwidth is terrible. The processor is a heft up version, the one in the Wii, which is a heft up version of the processor in the GameCube, which is based on an IBM PowerPC tech that IBM stopped working on in the late 90s. So that's, utter junk. But even then, 50 times, there's no way. That would be a system that would be dramatically more powerful than the Xbox One and the PS4. So I don't think we're getting that at all. So I don't know where that's coming. That could just be straight up hyperbole. But it's certainly very interesting. Is it possible that we're getting a universal platform like iOS, like one operating system, one API, running on both a portable and a home platform? That would make an awful lot of sense. It would simplify things for Nintendo development-wise, logistics-wise, an awful lot, and for third-party developers that wish to support both Nintendo's home and portable platforms. But right now, this description says Samsung, and a 2DS had a baby, quote unquote. The problem, it could be theoretically trying to pull a Wii U 2 where they have another tablet controller, but that tablet controller is one of the main reasons why the Wii U is still so expensive. Several years after its release, after it has been effectively a disaster for the company, the prices on them have certainly, from what I've seen, certainly here in Ireland, the retail prices have not been aggressively slashed since launch, considering how badly it is done. It should be down to $199 really by now, considering how badly it's done, but that's not happened. And one of the main theories as to why there hasn't been aggressive price cutting on the hardware is because the tablet controller is so expensive to make because of the screen and the other components within it. I would imagine the same thing would apply to the NX if what we're seeing here in terms of a 2DS and a Samsung had a baby was just describing the controller. That is bound to be pretty damn expensive, and how they'd build a machine that could match or even surpass the capabilities of the Xbox One and the PS4 and have a new tablet controller at the same time is kind of beyond me. But again, it's so much is up at this point is still up in the air. Who knows? It does. I'm going to say having a situation where it can sync with your phone, so you can be playing your portable device on the go and you're on the train or whatever commuting, and not having to then stick your hands into your pockets, pull out your phone, plug out your headphones and into your phone if you're on a busy train to talk to someone, instead of being able to do it through your via Bluetooth sync with your between your phone and your NX. Sounds like, to my mind, a very good idea and well worth doing. And again, to my mind, the most obvious place Nintendo has to go in terms of the portable space is the production of a small form factor tablet rather than a traditional handheld gaming device. And I think the 2DS really is, certainly in terms of using one big screen rather than two separate screens, is probably the way Nintendo is going to go. I think it's a very good indication as to where Nintendo plans to go with things in the future. As a prime example, it clearly shows that one bigger screen was cheaper to make than the two separate screens on the 3DS, maybe except plus minus the 3D functionality, which the 2DS doesn't have. I could yammer on and on, which I really don't want to. So I'm sure you don't want me to either. But again, how much the proof is in the pudding. We're getting closer and closer to E3. I may do a video in the not too distant future, like a top 5 things Nintendo needs to do for the NX to be a success. But considering how little we know about it, we still don't know if it's a portable device or if it's a home console. I mean, it would be a bit odd for Nintendo at this stage. The new 3DS came out last year, which is the new improved version of the 3DS, slightly better hardware, a couple of exclusive games that take advantage of the extra grunt. Have been released for it, but again, and the DSi was admittedly launched very late in the DS's lifespan as well. But whether we get a brand new handheld from Nintendo this Christmas when it's their home console business is in the toilet, I don't know. If that's a likely outcome, but they may be. I mean, it may just be a case of them coming to the conclusion they simply don't have the internal development capacity to make enough first-party exclusives for both a handheld and a home console at the same time, and they decided to cut their losses. That could be it. But again, a lot of it's still up for conjecture. They haven't as of yet. I do not believe Nintendo as of yet has announced an E3 press conference. I could be wrong on that. Again, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But this will be certainly a much more interesting E3 than last year's or the years before that, because we are going to get new hardware this year. And again, I will do a top 5 video on what I think Nintendo needs to do for the NX to be a success. Anyway, for the moment, if you liked this video, please let me know in the comments and give me your thoughts, your own feedback, what you think the NX will be or what Nintendo does need to do and doesn't need to do for the NX to be a success. And if you like this video, please like it. And you, for some strange reason, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel or to my channel, please do so. This is Defub21 signing off. Toodaloo.